Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back into the video today. And today, the Minnesota Timberwolves lose to the Utah Jazz 117-116. Great win for the Utah Jazz. And I called it. I said yesterday that the Utah Jazz would beat the Minnesota Timberwolves. I did a video literally as the Minnesota Timberwolves Los Angeles Lakers game yesterday was going on. And I started talking about Anthony Edwards getting suspended. Because when Anthony Edwards got ejected in the game last night in the third quarter, I knew that, okay, he's suspended. That's his 16th technical foul. So I just did a video on it. And I said in that video, Utah Jazz can sneak up on Minnesota tomorrow, which I don't really know if this is much of a sneak up since you look at what Minnesota's roster was in this game tonight. And I said Minnesota's going to sneak up on them and they're going to beat them tomorrow. Utah's going to sneak up on Minnesota tomorrow and they're going to beat them tomorrow because, sure, Minnesota has a good roster. Sure, they still have guys like Naz Reid and McDaniels, and they got Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Terrence Shannon Jr. has been balling recently. You got Mike Conley. You got Dante and Rob Dillingham. Luka Garza. This is a really solid roster. They really played well tonight. But second night of back-to-back, no Anthony Edwards. There's no Julius Randle or Rudy Gobert. You're not going to be successful. And that's what I said last night. And I think you have to look at this game and what the position is of the Minnesota Timberwolves right now, and you look at it and you 100% blame Anthony Edwards for this loss. I'm sorry. I love Anthony Edwards as a player, but Minnesota does not lose this game if he's playing. And why? If it was an injury, why Anthony Edwards is not playing this game? Of course, we're not going to say they lost this game because Anthony Edwards, because he didn't play tonight. Because you cannot control when you have an injury. That's not something you can control as a player. You can't control getting injured or not. If you can't go, you can't go. And it's smart if you can't go on it, especially if it's the second night of back-to-back, don't play. That makes sense. But that's not the case. The reason Anthony Edwards did not play tonight is because he was suspended by the league because he has way too many technical fouls this year. Here's one simple solution that would solve this. Just one I've seen last night that could have solved this from happening, and Minnesota would have had a win tonight. How about last night when he gets into it with Jared Vanderbilt? Here's the simple idea. Walk away from that. Walk away. Let Jared Vanderbilt get teed up for screaming at you and cussing you out and trying to go after you. Walk away. There's no need. I think if you're Anthony Edwards and you're in the technical foul position, if you know where you are in the technical foul position, because at that point, that was the Jared Vanderbilt scruffle that he had with Vanderbilt. That was his 15th technical foul. So before that argument with Vanderbilt, you know that you're 2 technical fouls away from getting suspended by the league. And your team right now is in a critical point in the standings. Last night, Minnesota started the night off as the 7th seed in the Western Conference. Then when Golden State beat Orlando, they went to 8. And then when they lost to the Lakers, Dallas got even closer to them for Minnesota to drop all the way to the 9 seed. So if you're at the point where standings are critical and you're 2 technical fouls away from getting suspended by the league, and you start to get into it with an NBA player, and that could lead into a double technical foul where both of you guys get teed up, walk away. It's that simple. And then, don't say anything to the referee. You got to control those type of things. And this is where it gets even tougher for Minnesota now is, look, this guy is going to get suspended once every 2 technical fouls. Here's just a good for instance that I want to note. Last Friday, I'm a Rockets fan. I watched the Rockets-Timberwolves game. I would have watched the game if I wasn't a Rockets fan, but the Rockets and Timberwolves played on ESPN. As a Rockets fan, I watched the game. And Edwards in the first quarter got a technical foul, and that was his 12th or 13th of the season. Not even a week later, he's already at 16. So you see how fast he gets technical fouls. He has 4 in the last week in 2 or 3 games played. So with how fast he gets them, if he doesn't control it, if he doesn't try to find a way to fix this problem that he has, you're going to see him get suspended for multiple games. That's something you can't have if you're Minnesota with a standing position there right now. And with this loss tonight, they now officially fall to the number 9 seed. And here's another tricky thing. Now, they are a half a game back from being at the 10 seed. That's how critical Minnesota is in the standings right now. You cannot afford Anthony Edwards to continue to get suspended, and that could happen if Ant continues to get teed up. And now you got Sacramento on your tail. That's not something you want. You don't want to fall to the 10 seed, because if you fall to the 10 seed, and if you fall to the 10 seed, then it goes from hosting Sacramento in the play-in to having to go to Sacramento in the play-in, and then you have to win in Sacramento, and then you have to play either Dallas or Golden State on the road. And then, just a couple of nights ago, Minnesota was the 7 seed. And, as a 7 seed, all you got to do is win one game and you're in the playoffs. But now, after a couple nights, you're at the 9 seed. You're almost at the 10 seed. If this gets any worse for Minnesota, you might have to win 2 road play-in games instead of just having to win 1 home play-in game and you're in the playoffs. So that's what can happen to you when when your best player gets suspended. That really hurt them tonight. It really did. And I said Utah was going to win this game because Minnesota's on a second night of back-to-back, and Utah snuck up on some teams this month. They really have. They've beat the Lakers, the Rockets, and the Warriors this month. Start off with the Warriors, then they beat the Lakers with a basically fully healthy Lakers team. I think the Lakers pretty much had everybody but Dalton Kennett on the roster. They beat the Rockets. The Rockets were missing Tari and Fred, but still beat the Rockets. Still a good win if you're a very bad Utah Jazz team. So they've had some sneaky wins this month, and they end their month with a win against the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I know this Minnesota Timberwolves team is missing a lot, but to me, I'm sorry. With how bad Utah has been this season, I still would say Minnesota is a better basketball team when you have Jaden McDaniels, Naz Reid, Mike Conley, NAW, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Terrence Shannon Jr., Luka Garza, and Dante DiVincenzo. You look at some of the players in this roster, even though Utah sucks, this is still, even though Utah's a really bad roster, and yes, they have some solid players in their roster. You got John Collins, you have Walker Kessler and Colin Sexton. They have some really solid players in their roster, but it's not as good as Minnesota is not healthy at all. Missing Ant, missing Joe Ingles, missing Rudy and Julius. Minnesota, I still believe, has a talented roster with what they had on the court for tonight than what Utah did. And that's why I still think this is a disappointing loss if you're Minnesota. But Naz Reid had a great game tonight. He had 27 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, 6 for 15 from 3, 20 points and 10 rebounds and 5 assists for Jaden McDaniels. Much better night than he had in L.A. Conley, that's another thing that hurts with this suspension of Anthony Edwards. On a second night of back-to-back, Mike Conley, old veteran, is not going to be able to play as much. That's why he only played 24 minutes. 3 points. Dante DiVincenzo, 4 for 13, 12 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, 1 block off the bench. 18 minutes off the bench for Rob Dillingham, 4 points. Jalen Clark, 16 minutes, 5 points. 29 points for John Collins, 12 rebounds for him. He was the key player for Utah tonight, but also the key player was rookie Isaiah Collier, 11 points, 14 assists. Colin Sexton, 13 points, 9 points, and 13 rebounds for Walker Kessler, had 2 blocks. Off the bench, they had a lot of help. Bryson Sabaro, second-year player, had 17 points. KJ Martin, former Rocket, had 11 points. Rookie Kyle Filipowski had 11 and 13, and that's the game. So, very disappointing loss for Minnesota. If you're Anthony Edwards and you get back with the team after the suspension, this is what I would do if I was on it. I've played basketball. Obviously, I haven't played, at the level these guys are playing at, but I've played at, and being in a league, AUU, played in middle school. I didn't play in high school because I, stopped going to high school and started doing online school. But I've played basketball, and I know if I made a mistake like this that costed my team, I would not stop apologizing to the team in the locker room. And so I think if you're Anthony Edwards, after this loss that they just had to this terrible team because he wasn't on the floor, I am 100% sure that Minnesota wins this game tonight if Anthony Edwards is on the floor. And this is a costly loss for this team as they fall to the 9 seed and fall closer to being to the 10 seed. If you're Anthony Edwards after this game, you apologize to this team and you say this will never happen again. And I think maybe this loss could be a good thing for Minnesota, because I think maybe this loss could be a wake-up call for Anthony Edwards to say, okay, this team lost tonight because I wasn't on the floor, because I have way too many technical fouls, and I need to make sure that doesn't happen again. This loss could be a good thing for him, because he could realize, okay, the team needs me. I got to stop this. But I never thought we'd be talking about Anthony Edwards like we do Draymond. I mean, Anthony Edwards is not a dirty player like Draymond Green is, but he has become a problem with the referees like Draymond Green is, and he's too valuable to his team to be doing that. Way too valuable. Way too valuable. I hate to compare him to Draymond Green. What he really has become is what Luka is. Luka complains to the refs a lot, and has been one of the most teed up NBA players in the league outside of Draymond. So I think you comparing him to Luka is actually fair, because he's a star, huge player who gets frustrated with refs and never is dirty or anything like that. Just loses his word sometimes. But Jazz win 117-116. Let me know your thoughts on the game in the comment section, and peace out.